Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Chris Maloney here with you for the 2021 class of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. If you're watching live, thank you very much on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. If you're listening on audio later on, thank you very much as well. You can check out the official website for the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame at cpwhof.ca. You can see the scrolling links down below there, but that is the most important one is the website there. So welcome to the show. I'll get started by announcing who I am. My name is Chris Maloney, founder as well as editor of CWNonline.ca, otherwise known as CWN. Today we're celebrating the 12th anniversary of CWN as a whole. So it's made sense to me, if we're going to branch off and do a Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, why not branch off and do it the exact same day as the anniversary? So January 18th, 2021 made sense. Longtime wrestling fan, you can check out my profile, CWNonline.ca. You can find my name there. A lot of little tidbits as far as me being a wrestling fan goes. I mean, from all the way from my great uncle, being a referee in the Maritimes at one point. His last match he refereed, he was tossed over the top rope by the late Andre Rusimov, otherwise known as Andre the Giant there. My grandfather used to be a shuttle bus driver. Once had the honor of shuttling who was Jake the Snake Roberts, and I think Greg the Hammer Valentine, but sitting front seat with him was the one and only Miss Elizabeth, and then Randy Macho Man Savage was in the cargo van as well. So little stories like that, and then the same great uncle who I mentioned who got tossed over the ropes by Andre Rusimov ended up becoming a journalist down in New Brunswick for the better part of 30, 40 years, I believe it was. So, I've always been a wrestling fan. Since the time I was 3 years old. Andre was the guy who made me fall in love with wrestling. The whole big, angle with him and Big John Studd and Ken Patera and Andre getting his haircut and him being as large as he was, just that was the moment I fell in love with wrestling. My dad says, I was about 3 or 4 years old, and basically same sort of thing. He was watching wrestling late at night, and I kind of took interest then. But it was that Andre haircut, that made me fall in love completely with wrestling there. As far as CWN goes, like I said, 12 years we've been doing this. Didn't start out that way. Originally, I'd done a website back in 2001 called ftcwf.ca. Through there, it was based on Canadian independent wrestling, pro wrestling, as well as mixed martial arts. Then I decided to branch off, do a podcast for the very first time. So OWR, if anybody remembers, Ontario Wrestling Recap. It took a hiatus for a little bit from 2007 to 2009, but January 18th, 2009 is when CWN came into existence there. So that's a little bit about myself, as well as the website itself goes too. As far as the Hall of Fame goes, I wanted to be able to give a compliment to honor the legends, here in Canada. No offense to any other wrestling Hall of Fame that existed, in Canada, but that's hence the fact I put the words presented by CWN because it's CWN's Hall of Fame. There's going to be other Canadian Wrestling Hall of Fames by different, promotions or, websites, whatever the case may be. But this is my tribute. This is my compliment to Canada as far as Canadian wrestling goes. But 9 categories are stacked up. And as you saw there in the intro, one of them hasn't been announced yet, and there's reasons for that, but I will announce it tonight here live on the show. Categories have been announced so far: legend category, male wrestler category, female wrestler category. We got the tag team category, the sharpshooter category, the siren category. We've got the MMA category, the honor category, and category number 9. And as far as mixed martial arts go, I'll give you a little bit of tidbit here. I live in London, Ontario, Canada, the home of Sam Stout, as well as Adrenaline MMA. I fell in love with UFC way back in like the mid 90s, so to speak. I remember my friend at the time said, hey, you like wrestling, so check out this. And it was Hoist Gracie, and down the Maritimes is a little bit of a different time zone. So the fact is it was an hour later, but that was up to like 3 a.m. watching Hoist Gracie in the very first couple of UFCs there. So it was a huge MMA fan. I don't talk about it as much as I want to, but that's it's going to change this year. I tell you that much there. So guys, this is the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. First thing I'm going to do here is bring up the first category at hand, talk about it a little bit, and then announce the official winner, because that is what this show is all about, is announcing the inductees into the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. So I'm going to do this now. Anybody listen on audio, I'm just getting rid of some of the graphics on the screen here just to make it a little bit easier as far as the transitions go. I try to make this as clean and smooth as possible. But guys, this is the very first category in the CWN Hall of Fame, or the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. This is the Legends category, and these are the 5 names that were in there. So sit back and relax, enjoy it, and I'll be back just momentarily here. So those 5 names made the list as far as the legend category goes for the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. It was interesting because we did the votes. So the way the voting works, it's myself, Sean Bates, who helped me create CWN way back in the day, as well as the online vote. The online vote is the one that matters the most. So the online vote is the one that we basically take and announce the winner to. So as far as the ratio goes, as far as the brackets go, it goes like this. 40% is given to the online bracket, 30% is given to my vote, 30% is given to Sean's vote. So you will never see anybody win 51% as far as the vote tally goes. Excuse me, it's either going to be 100%, 70%, or 40%. If it's 40%, it means the online vote was different from mine and Sean's. If it was 70%, it means my or Sean's opinion went with the online vote. If it's 100%, it means myself, Sean, as well as the online vote there all mattered there. So, and I'm going to save some of the comments here. Just till not the very end, but I'll announce the winners, and then we'll see where the comments are coming in. But guys, if you're watching online, as far as YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, feel free to throw up comments there. Once I announce the winners, I'll put your comments in just to see how you guys out there have voted. So, in saying that, 5 guys in this category there: Stu Hart, of course, legendary Hart family patriarch. We go from him to Pat Patterson, first ever Intercontinental Champion. Rest in peace to Pat Patterson as well, passed away in December of last year. Then we go into Abdullah the Butcher, who wasn't a big name as far as championships went, but the fact is he had a legendary status, especially when you think about his feuds with guys like Bruiser Brody. You think about his alliance with regards to Cactus Jack, so to speak, Mick Foley. But Abdullah is one of those guys that I never knew he was Canadian either until like a while ago. And then all of a sudden he's, I think Windsor, Ontario is where he's officially from. But Abdullah is one of those legendary names. So he was put into this as well. Then we go to Ivan Koloff, and I've got to do a little bit of a side note here. So this comes courtesy of WWE.com. The Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff, was another top contender who grappled San Martino numerous times and came close to victory. But Bruno was always able to best him until the night of January 18th, 1971. So today also marks the official 50th anniversary when Ivan Koloff beat the legendary Bruno San Martino for that WWF championship there. So, pretty cool moment, obviously, in Canadian wrestling history, but pretty cool. It's the 50th anniversary of that match officially today, so that's kind of cool there. And then we go into the final guy, Killer Kowalski, notorious for being one of those legendary heels, but also notorious for training some of the guys that we see today, guys like Triple H, and there's a few others as well. And the fact is, Killer Kowalski is one of those guys that is synonymous with legendary wrestling. I'm just going to bring up an article here. So when you talk about who he trained, I mean, obviously Triple H comes up to mind. The late Chyna, Eddie Edwards, Kofi Kingston, Damian Sandow, Fandango. We got April Hunter, John Kronos, Perry Saturn, Tommaso Ciampa, and as well as the legendary Big John Studd. So, it's when you list those names there, it's absolutely phenomenal. The way the voting went as well, guys, is with myself and Sean. Each category, we had 8 categories, obviously, that were votable. So as far as the names being picked went, I basically picked, it was kind of like a draft, so to speak. So I would pick one, Sean would pick one, and then the next category, he would get the 3, next category, I would get the 3, and so forth. So that's how the names racked up. So he would list his top 5. I would list my top 5. If there were any matches, so to speak, so if there were 3 matches, automatically they were in because we were both voting on them. And then from there, we went kind of 1 for 1 all the way through the 8 categories there. So that's the way it worked. Guys like Gene Kaniski obviously should be on that list as well, but he didn't make the cut this time around, 2022 maybe. I had the honor of meeting Gene Kaniski one time only when I was a kid. Didn't believe he was a wrestler because he was an old guy, but I'll leave that at that. So in saying that, the way it works is the online vote, like I said, mattered the most, followed up by myself and Sean's votes there. But I'm happy to announce, as far as the category goes for Legend, the winner is Stu Hart. And there wasn't a lot of fanfare going against Stu Hart, I got to say that. So the way it worked as well is with regards to Stu Hart, he won 100% of the vote. So the online vote he had won, as well as I voted for him, and Sean voted for him as well. So Stu Hart in the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, presented by CWN 2021 class. He is the first member into the Hall of Fame there. So get some comments up here. Where are we here? We got Aaron Sison down in Sarnia, who's got his own podcast, who's up on YouTube there. If you go to CWN online, as far as our YouTube account goes, you'll see some of the stuff that he's done. He is a podcast master, I want to say, and I'm saying that because the fact he's pumping out podcasts like almost daily, I think. But give it a listen, guys. So Aaron Sison, hope I pronounced your last name properly there, but he would have said Pat Patterson. And where are we here? Stephen O'Neill. Don't forget about Slugging with Stephen O'Neill featuring. I will get to that at the very end of the show there. And then Chem Valley Wrestling. Congrats, Stu Hart. So that is it for the Legend category there, guys. So 1 down. We've got officially 8 to go. And I'm just going to bring this back up here. So from the Legend category, we go into the Male Wrestler category. And I will put it this as well. So I'm not going to announce every single vote, but I will say this with regards to the category. So Stu Hart ended up winning with 67.6% of the vote. And this is the online vote, by the way. And then Pat Patterson was second with 18.9% of the vote. So a huge gap between them. But that's the way the online vote played out. The winner, like I said, ended up getting 40%. And then basically myself and Sean add the other 60% there. So is the way it works. But 67.6 of the online vote was Stu Hart there. So guys, we're going to go into the next category here. Next category is the Male Wrestler category. This featured 5 individuals as well. So every category we have features 5 individuals, except for the last category, which will be self-explanatory when I get to it. But this is, like I said, the Male Wrestler category coming up. So again, I'm going to get rid of this one graphic here, and I'm going to play the video that was launched first on YouTube. You could find on the cpwhof.ca website. But guys, check this out. This was the video for the Male Wrestler category here. So some of those guys could have easily doubled up into the Legend category there. But again, the way the picks worked, like I said, I would pick 5 picks. Sean would pick 5 picks. We'd match them and then kind of go 1 for 1 after that. But I mean, some of those guys in that category there are future Hall of Famers, if they're not already there. So we're talking about Bret the Hitman Hart, Owen Hart, Roddy Piper, Chris Jericho, and Rick Martel. The interesting thing about some of these guys, Bret the Hitman Hart, tag team wrestler as well as singles wrestler. And I mean, if you want to talk about somebody who made the Hart family name great, he did. Owen Hart, obviously, passed away well too soon. But the fact is, he made his legacy felt, when he basically, turned on Brett in the WrestleMania 10 and all that moments there, and the Intercontinental titles, the Slammy Awards, the Tag Team Championships, the ones with the British Bulldog, or not the British Bulldogs, but the British Bulldog. We go next to Roddy Piper, and I should say this as well. The Legend category, the way that worked is you had to have excelled in your career prior to 1980. That was the way the Legend category had stood out. So you take somebody like Bret Hart, he necessarily didn't have a huge career before 1980, obviously, but somebody like Roddy Piper did. So Piper could have been in both categories. I believe I voted for him in the Legend category as well, but he ends up being in the male wrestler category. And, he's wasn't big as far as championships went, as far as the WB, of course. But his gimmick and who he was and his personality, he it paved the way for a lot of guys, a lot of younger guys as well. Comparisons of MJF to Roddy Piper, of course. And, if you ever want to listen to who Piper is or who Piper was outside of the ring, listen to the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast a couple of years ago, and he does an interview with Piper, which is a two-parter, and you really get to hear about the tough times that Piper had before he actually did make it big. So it's absolutely amazing. A guy from Saskatchewan as well. So Chris Jericho, obviously future Hall of Famer. I'm going to point this out as well, because when we're doing the vote, originally back in November, some people were kind of like, well, you know what? How come these guys, if they're not retired yet, are part of the vote? Is because they have had a career that is Hall of Fame worthy, at this point. Now, some of these guys are still wrestling well into their 50s and 60s, but the fact is, when it comes down to it, they deserve to be part of this poll. And like I said, it went back and forth as far as me and Sean went as far as the vote goes. So that's somebody like Chris Jericho, still wrestling today, AEW World Champion last year. But the fact is, he has had a Hall of Fame career, obviously. And then we go from there into the one and only Rick Martel. A lot of new fans, a lot of fans think of him as part of being of Strikeforce or Rick the Model Martel. When you look at that video that I played, AWA World Heavyweight Champion, obviously, he had a huge singles run before he became the Model, before he became a member of Strikeforce. But, Rick the Model Martel, Rick Martel, deserved to be in that category as well. So, guys, with that being said, the vote was this. Male wrestler going into the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021 is, yes, the one and only Bret the Hitman Hart. So Bret the Hitman Hart got in there with a 70% vote. So the online vote, like I said, 40%. So he ended up winning the online vote. 44.7% is what he tallied over Owen Hart, who was second at 21.1%. So he ended up beating his brother in this one, but not by much, not as much as Stu Hart did. But like I said, Bret Hart in the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, presented by CWN, the 2021 class. 70% vote. So it was 40% vote online, and then myself voted for him as well. So that is how Bret Hart got in there. Another comment here, Aaron Sison, Roddy. He's a personal favorite of mine. If you look behind me, you can see his book. I've got a poster kicking around someplace as well. I loved his gimmick. Again, somebody who passed away way too soon, but Roddy Piper, yes, rest in peace. A close second there, personally, as far as the category for male wrestler goes. So, guys, we go into the next category here for the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021, presented by CWN, and that is the women's category. So the women, so the female wrestler category. Again, 5 ladies in this online vote, as well as my vote, as well as Sean's vote. But I'm going to take this away once again, and I'm going to bring up the video for all 5 women that were involved in voting for the female wrestler for the 2021 class. Here you go, guys. So you saw all 5 women listed there. Obviously, some huge names as far as Canadian female wrestling go. Some retired, some still wrestling. But obviously, Trish Stratus, is legendary. The career that she actually had was absolutely amazing. You go from a fitness model into being the manager there for TNA. Into the legendary career that she had. I got to see her in 2019 at SummerSlam against Charlotte Flair, an amazing match, and she still proved that she could battle with the youngins there. So Trish Stratus, number 1, as far as that category goes. Number 2, not far behind, Natalya. Again, that Hart family legacy there. And Natalya's come a long way as well. I remember her when she was on the Ontario independent wrestling scene. Obviously, she's Calgary, Alberta, but she'd come down here to wrestle with TJ Wilson as well as Harry Smith. And, she's completely transformed herself into what she was to who she is. She's great as well as far as the younger female wrestlers go. She's not afraid to get in there and show them the ropes and basically teach them properly how to become a great wrestler. And she's also not afraid to get into the ring with Ronda Rousey as a training partner. So that says she's tough right there. From there, we go into Gail Kim. Gail Kim is obviously Canadian, under the tutelage back in the day of the one and only Ron Hutchison. The cool thing about Gail Kim is if you say the words La Felina, it means something to her. When she first started wrestling on the entire Ontario independent wrestling scene, she wrestled in a whole black leotard type thing, and she was under a mask, and her name used to be La Felina. And the next thing you know, she ends up going to WB and Impact Wrestling and the Hall of Fame careers that she's had. And, they take the mask off, and, she's one of the sweetest ladies I think I've ever met in my life. Anytime I've gone to try to interview her, bad luck with, because anytime, I think twice now, I've tried to interview Gail Kim, and both times basically she ended up getting signed, I think, by the WWE. So I kind of gave up. And that was a few years ago, but I got to meet her last year at a wrestling event here in London, Ontario. For the second time. And, she's absolutely a sweetheart, like I said, and another lady who's not afraid to basically show the ropes to anybody. And when you think about her and you think about that match with Tessa Blanchard that she had, she proved that she can still do it as well. From there, we go into Rhonda Singh, otherwise known as Bertha Faye, guys. It's interesting because I didn't know was Canadian until she got the vote in. And also I started doing the research on her. And, obviously the stuff with Harvey Whippleman. But she had a legendary career, so much to the point that if you go online and search for her name, and so not Bertha Faye, but Rhonda Singh, she was a threat back in the day. Now, it was back during, I think, the mid-90s when she was WWE, and it was the Alundra Blaze, and Bull Nakano. And I wasn't a big fan of much going on in the WWE back then, but when you look at the career Rhonda Singh had, she was absolutely phenomenal. And we go from there into Miss Angelina Love, currently with Ring of Honor ROH, another sweetheart. A lot of backstory as far as Angelina Love goes with regards to her career. And I remember I went, true story here. So I went to an event in Paris, Ontario that didn't actually exist. I go to the event. There's no ring. There's a bunch of wrestlers standing around. She did an autograph signing prior to at a mall, and then she ends up at this almost like a fairground, so to speak, but there's no ring. And Dewey Robertson is there, so the rest in peace to the missing link. And he's sitting there smoking in his car, and he still puts on a match. And I remember Angelina Love and somebody, I think Reggie Morley, I think had picked her up, or JQ Public, one of the two, and put her over his shoulder, and then basically just clowning around this and that. And then all of a sudden she ends up in WWB tryout, OVW, I think it was, to Impact Wrestling, TNA Wrestling, to ROH. One more short little story is I was at ROH event last summer at Mattamy Athletic Center, and I am sitting next to her cousins, and all of a sudden they're getting basically trashed all night. And it was interesting. And then all of a sudden kind of a small little intermission almost took place, and her cousins go over to Angelina Love, and it was kind of interesting, kind of another little tidbit as far as me in wrestling goes. So it's but like I said, the career that she's had, the transformation that she's had, is absolutely amazing. So guys, with that being said, those five those 5 competitors, I'm going to bring up the winner here for the female wrestler, it is the one and only Trish Stratus. So Trish Stratus into the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame 2021 class. As far as the voting goes, it was complete 100%. So Sean had voted for her. I had voted for her. The online vote went towards Trish Stratus as well. She ended up winning with 52.6%, followed by Natalia at 26.3%. So kind of a landslide there for Trish Stratus, but congratulations to her for being part of the 2021 class of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. So that being said, we're going to get into our next category. So I'm going to do this, and I'll tell you this. I've got 2 promos coming up within the before the end of the show, as well as an interview coming up within the next 10 to 15 minutes, guys. So I'm going to play this video for you guys now, and then from there, we'll go and talk about the tag team category there, and then I'll go further on, and we'll get to that live interview coming up pretty soon here. So, guys, here is the video for the tag team category and who was involved. So, Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame 2021 class, going to introduce the tag teams that were in the vote there. So, tag team category existed as Edge and Christian, the Hart Foundation, which was Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. We get the Fabulous, or just the Rougeau brothers, if you want to call them, Jacques and Raymond. We get the Thrill Seekers in there as well. So Chris Jericho and Lance Storm, who did surprisingly well in the vote. I'll tell you that much there. And then we got the Vachons, which is Maurice Mad Dog Vachon and Paul Butcher Vachon there. So guys, that is the tag team category there. What can you say? The Edge and Christian, how they came up, again, another story like Gail Kim, another story like Angelina Love, another story like Trish Stratus. Edge and Christian, basically the stories that you've heard about them, scraping by just to try to make careers. They end up being part of the WB as far as Gangrel's gimmick goes. I'll never forget being in Hamilton, Ontario, Cops Coliseum, seeing the debut as Christian. But he didn't necessarily debut as a wrestler. He just kind of came out in the crowd, kind of looked at Edge, and then that was all there was to it. And then obviously the Brood gets formed. They have, amazing careers as far as tag team wrestlers go, individual wrestlers as well, but tag team wrestlers, they did absolutely phenomenal. In saying that, some of the best WrestleMania matches ever took place as far as tag team goes, they were part of. And, it's interesting to know that they were still somewhat of an item, somewhat teaming last year. But obviously Edge and Christian, huge as far as Canadian independent as well as Canadian wrestling goes. So then we go to the Hart Foundation. What more can you say about those two guys? This goes back into the days of the 1980s, towards the 1990s, so to speak. Their feuds with the British Bulldogs, obviously Strike Force, Danny Davis, the way that played out. We've got Demolition, them beating them at SummerSlam. And then obviously Bret goes on to the singles career, that WrestleMania 4 moment with the Battle Royal there. But him and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, to me, they were always two of the coolest guys as far as the tag team went. And when you look back and see the career that they had as a tag team, from Bret Hart when he first became a wrestler, in the WWE, to what he accomplished, everything further. I'll still never forget that WrestleMania 2 match with the Hart Foundation, Andre the Giant at the very end. And, obviously Andre ends up winning the Battle Royal there. But Hart Foundation, another one of those teams back in the day that just made me a wrestling fan, I tell you that. Next, we go to the Fabulous Rougeau brothers, Jacques and Raymond. Was never really truly a huge fan of the Rougeau brothers, but I respected their talent. The matches they could put on, and this is back in the era as well as the Killer Bees, as well as the Rockers. That heel turn that they took with Jimmy the Mouth of the South Heart, and all of a sudden they became Americans. I still picture Jacques Rougeau waving that American flag there, them singing their own theme song, Honky Tonk Man style. But legends as well. They could have easily been tag team champions. but they never pulled the trigger on them. And the thing is, back then, there were so many great tag teams that existed as far as the WB went. So, there'll always be kind of one of the greatest tag teams to never win the WB Tag Team Championships there. Then we go into the Thrill Seekers. Thrill Seekers, what more can you say? Just basically go and Google pictures of what Chris Jericho and Lance Storm looked like back in the day. They had Jericho with the Shawn Michaels kind of fluffy hair look, and Lance Storm with that same kind of buzz cut, a little bit longer up top, but he had this kind of rat tail going on down behind him there. They were both jacked, I tell you this. And to know that they both made it as far as they did career-wise was absolutely amazing. But it's just, I still can't believe they got put in as far as the vote goes. And like I said, they didn't do too bad. But Thrill Seekers tag team number 4 there. And then we go into number 5, the Vachons. So Paul the Butcher, as well as Maurice Mad Dog, they're, as far as the history goes, they're a little bit more back in the day. So not a lot of new fans will remember them or remember anything that has to kind of do with the Vachons. But they know the name, obviously, Luna Vachon, if you're a fan of the wrestling in the 80s or 90s there. But they did accomplish as tag team wrestling. Some good moments there, some strong moments there. But the Vachons were my personal favorite pick to put into this. I mean, you think about when their careers actually existed. Debut was way back, I believe, in the 60s, if I can say that correctly. But you got to look into that a little bit more there. So, but like 5 different tag teams going from the 60s into the 80s into the early 90s there. But guys, long story short, is this the winners going into the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021 are the one and only Edge and Christian. So hard to argue with them going in. Personally, I did not vote for them. I ended up voting for the Vachons, I tell you that. But they did go in with a 70% vote. So it would have been Sean's vote as well as the online vote there. And as far as the vote itself goes, they got in only with 35.1%. So very close. And they ended up winning only by 1 vote, to put that in perspective. As far as the Thrill Seekers went, they ended up getting 13.5% of the votes. The Vachons actually ended up coming in last. But 1 vote separated Edge and Christian and the Hart Foundation. So if 2 more votes would have happened for the Harts, they would have got in. But like I said, it's the online vote that matters the most. That is 40% of it. And then from there, like I said, Sean's vote or my vote add on to it. So, but they go in with 70% of the votes. So congratulations to Edge and Christian going into the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021 there. So from there, we go into our first very kind of unique category. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say with regards to the voting, the legend category dedicated to a Canadian pro wrestler that competed prior to 1980 and excelled in the business, followed by male wrestler that excelled in the business, female wrestler that excelled in the business, as well as a tag team that excelled in the business. Well, this next category here is called the sharpshooter category, dedicated to a male Canadian independent wrestler with the potential to excel in the business there. So I wanted to put focus as far as the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame goes on 2 individuals that have the potential. 1 male, 1 female. The male, obviously, is the sharpshooter. The female is the siren. But right now, I'm going to show the actual video with regards to the sharpshooter category. And this is 5 independent wrestlers across Canada that got voted in to be part of the vote. So this is Canadian based. It's not just Ontario independent based, but it is Canadian based. So some of the names you're not necessarily going to be familiar with. So I'll do a little bit of backstory on them. But here, guys, here's the video for the sharpshooter category, the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. So, if you're a fan of Ontario Independent Wrestling, you're familiar with a lot of those names, anyways, at least three. If you're not, some of those names are new to you. So, it's my job to enlighten people, to let people know who these guys are, and just give you a little bit of history there. So, first of all, we have got, let me see, I'm going to do this kind of. I had an order that was all set, and I ended up going a different way as far as the order goes. But I'll start this way. We got Carter Mason, who is first on there, and basically, guys, he is an Ontario independent wrestler. As far as stats go, and correct me if I'm wrong through comments if you want to here, but looks like 31 years old, Oakville, Ontario, Canada. Trained by Johnny Devine. His nickname is King of the North. I can confirm that. And he began his in-ring career at States in 2006. This is all courtesy of Cage Match, by the way. So that's a long career, I tell you that much there. So that is King of the North, Carter Mason. I've seen him quite a few times, actually. I've actually had the honor of interviewing him on a previous show that I had done. But Carter Mason is one of those guys that lives the gimmick, I tell you that much there. We go from there into Michael Richard Blaise. He is based in Alberta. Still new to his name. I know he had a few appearances, I think, with regards to the WWE. But here in Ontario, I'm still learning who he is. As far as cagematch.net goes, again, also known as Chucky Blaze, Chucky the Boy Wonder, Richard Blaze, Michael Bliss, and CC Bonin. 30 years old, States, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. 5'10", and he's been wrestling for 15 years. Wrestling style, he's a high flyer, and his nickname is God's Gift to Wrestling. I can confirm that as well, based on the fact that I think his handle on Twitter is God's Gift to Wrestling. So that is Michael Richard Blaise there. Guys, from there, we go into the one and only Mark Wheeler. Mark Wheeler, some of the stats on him. I've only got to see him a few times actually wrestle in person. He was part of a gimmick, but he's since gone out on his own. Mark Wheeler, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Not a lot of stats on him, but he's trained by looks like Chris Chambers of Super Kicked Wrestling there in Ontario. And as far as Mark goes, he is bulking up from basically what you see on social media and Twitter there. But he young guy, I believe, is only in his 20s, but a huge future ahead of him there. From there, we go into the one and only Tarek. Tarek, punch, kick, chop. Very much a family man, but the fact is he is doing his best to stay in shape as far as the pandemic goes. He is one of those guys that tag team or as far as the singles run goes, he can kick it either way, and a punch, kick, chop there. But fact is, when it comes down to Tarek, former Smash Wrestling champion there, and he's come a long way as far as the gimmick goes. I believe he was born out in Calgary, but now he resides in Toronto, if I'm correct about that. And last but not least, the one and only Jim Strider. So Jim Strider is new to the independent wrestling scene. He's only been wrestling about 2 years or so, trained by the infamous Tyson Dukes at the Tyson Dukes Wrestling Factory there. But when it comes down to basically Jim Strider, a big future ahead of him. He's still learning the craft. Last we had talked to him, he was ready to form a tag team with Ethan Dukes. I don't know if that's still going to happen there, but fact is, when it comes down to it, he is gifted, and we'll see a long career out of him there. So, guys, happy to announce here that the winner, as far as the sharpshooter category goes, like I said, who's got the potential to excel in the business, right here, the one and only Carter Mason. He is the winner of the sharpshooter category. He ended up getting 40% of the vote, but he ended up winning the online vote, 38.8%, followed by Tarek at 26.5%. So not a big gap between the two guys, but King of the North is in as far as the sharpshooter category goes. And guys, from here, I want to bring in the one and only King of the North, Mr. Carter Mason. Carter, how you doing tonight?
Good, boss. How are you?
Good. So congratulations, sharpshooter category. You got the vote in 2021 class. How does it feel to basically be recognized by your peers as well as the fans here in Canada?
It feels awesome, man. Especially, it's been a rocky two years, especially for my career. I went from like the absolute best I'd ever been doing, the most momentum I'd ever had. Main eventing most places I wrestled at, booked, you know what I mean, solid through weeks, to being told to never wrestle again. So it was like, felt all this momentum coming, had things planned for the future, had, you know what I mean, saw things kind of coming within my fingertip grasp, and then lost it all. It felt like, you know, and then came back for a year, and then the pandemic hit. But it's nice to see that even despite being off for the last 2 of 3 years, nearly, you know, people still value what I've done or contributed to the scene or the business or what have you. So, I mean, as a kid who just dreamt of being a wrestler, having a little bit of recognition with a few people is incredible. You know, achieving something like this is awesome. It's really great.
Yeah, I can tell you this personally. So I know I've seen you twice for sure. Once at Fanshawe College, you're in the main event. I think it was against Tyson Dukes back last year. I think it was the last time I actually saw independent wrestling, which was, I think, February of last year. But I also had the honor of seeing you at Montcalm Secondary School here in London in the main events against Cody Diener. That was for a charity show, if you remember that correctly as well. But the picture that was part of the video was from that Montcalm show. And one of those things I love about you is the fact is you play your gimmick and you play it well. You know, where does the King of the North character come from? Like, where do you get the inspiration for that from?
So I've told this a few times in different ways. But I don't know. This is where it really came from. And I feel like this way might actually be a different way than I've told in the past. But I had approached Lionel Knight. He's one of my best friends on earth, has been since I was 15 years old. And we bounce ideas off each other all the time. And I had just started to, you know, go on tour, and I was really starting to make a big push for myself, and felt that I had outgrown my current look, you know, which there wasn't really a gimmick. I came out to Bob Marley dancing and had some cool red pants, right? But there wasn't like really any substance to it. And I felt like it was time to have some substance to myself. So I approached Lionel. I told him these ideas I had, names I had, but none of them that I was sold on myself. You know, I'm like, it's not right. What do you think? You know, like, can you help me find that missing piece? He's the one that suggested King of the North. And it's like, as soon as he said it, like off of everything that I explained to him, it fits so perfectly. But the King of the North itself, like, it's just me and my life and my career, but also my life outside of like wrestling. It's what I've gone through and what I've survived. And that's what the King of North is. It's a guy who was never supposed to make it and did. A guy who at 112 pounds leaving high school, 4'7" going into high school, you know, had a growth spurt, but like, that's what I walked, you know, like, this kid should have never made Monday Night Raw. This kid should have never been backstage at a WWE event. This kid should have never had a 15 and counting, I hope another 15-year career, right? So that's what the King of the North is. It's a guy who survived and made it when he shouldn't.
So guys, when Carter was talking about WWE Raw, by the way, there was 2 moments. That was SummerSlam 2019, I believe. But one of them was you going off the stage, I think, with Riddle and as well as Killian Dane. Is that right?
Matt Riddle, but yes, yeah. Absolutely.
And then the other one was you and Sebastian Suave tag team. And who was it? Was it against the Viking Raiders?
Sure was.
Yeah, so it's a good showing for both. But I mean, does that when I mean that was a year and a half ago, but when that stuff happens, does that give you that itch to basically want to be part of that, to see that backstage scene, to, you know, is that your goal in the next couple of years?
Absolutely. Like, no long answer, but yeah, I felt like I belonged prior to being there, you know, and then once I got there, I always expected to be like terrified or nervous. And I mean, I'm very outgoing, and people wouldn't believe this from me, but if you know me personally, I'm pretty introverted. I love going out and meeting people, but at the same time, I can be reserved and to myself. And I expected to be that way, you know, at least just not necessarily walking on eggshells, but you don't want to do or say the wrong thing, right? That's how I expected to feel. And I got there and I'm like, I feel at home. Like, feels like where I should be. Don't get me wrong. Anyone, again, that knows me within the wrestling business will tell you I'm the hardest on myself in terms of ability. If you ask me, like, what's your best match that you should watch, I'll usually say none, because I always see a match for where I could improve. not for necessarily what I did well, right? So I like, and that's not true, none, but like that's how I think. I'm a perfectionist, and I know I have a long way to go, right? But when I was there, do I think that I was ready, or do I want to be within NXT learning and gaining that knowledge within the next couple of years? 100%, 100%. That was the goal prior to the pandemic. I was just getting ready to move down to Florida for a couple months and see what we could make happen, right? It was actually supposed to be the week after the quarantine happened. So, yeah.
So I'm assuming that's still the goal after the pandemic is officially done. A couple more questions for you. Who was your greatest mentor as far as the business goes? Now, you mentioned Lionel Knight, but who is that guy you can go to no matter what and get a solid answer, no matter if you're going to like the answer or not?
I feel like it'd be almost unfair to say one person, because like 15 years, that person, Lionel's been the only constant. We'll say that, right? But I've been very lucky, especially over the last few years, more people have fallen into that role. You know what I mean? A lot of my career truly was, again, like the King of North gimmick. It was me against the world. And that's kind of why originally Lionel took after me. He won't say it's out of pity, but I will, because out of pity, I was a small little 15-year-old kid who loved wrestling and got pushed around at that age, and all I was doing was showing up and trying to help set up chairs and be involved, but people took my excitement for annoyance, which I get because I was 15 in a grown man's world, right? But Lionel saw that and he didn't judge me for that. He took me under his wing and protected me for that. So he's been the constant since I broke in. But like Sebastian Suave, big time, has filled that role the last long while. Jason Kincaid, Sonny Kiss. I don't like naming names because I'll leave someone out who deserves to be in. You know what I'm saying? It's the most constant and long term has been Lionel. He's been my best friend, for better or worse. Justin Sane, he's been there just as long. I should have messaged him right from the get go. Him and Lionel both when I was 15. And that they've been day ones. They're the two that aren't or never have been afraid to check me when I need to be checked, or pick me up when I need to be picked up, especially going through my injury and stuff. There were some rough nights. Lionel was in Germany, 6 hours ahead, and I'm calling him at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, whatever it is. And he's keeping me motivated and focused and not letting me give up on myself, So him and Justin, day ones. Everyone else I mentioned on top of that list, and then a dozen more, you know what I'm saying? So I'm lucky that I've had people, even if it was me and Lionel against the world, there's a lot of people who don't even get a Lionel, right? And a lot of people, if you have 100 people, a lot of people that still don't have a Lionel, so him and Justin are my day ones, ride or dies forever.
All right. So final two questions for you. Number one is recommendation to anybody who wants to get into the business. What are they looking to do? Where are they looking to go? Obviously, when the pandemic's over with, but what's your advice to anybody wanting to get into the wrestling business themselves?
Don't take shortcuts. And that means like if you need to wait an extra year to save up the money to go to the better school or what have you, or the more credible trainer or what it is, like that's my suggestion, because you have no idea. That 1 year of saving could save you 4 or 5 years of a career in terms of how long it takes you to get somewhere, how much knowledge you pick up, how quickly, there's lots of talented people out there, but you can always see the level, you know what I mean? If anyone asks me where to go right now, especially in Canada, it's Tyson Dukes. Like it's hard to argue. There's tons of other great schools. That's not me saying don't go here or these guys can't make you professional, or having like so many reputable schools, so many reputable trainers that can help you where to go. But in my opinion, Tyson is the most well-rounded full package, right? People might have arguments for that, and they might be right, but that's my opinion. Do it right off the get-go, and push yourself. Like anything in life, the more you push yourself, push into the discomfort, the more you're going to get out of it. Wrestling already hurts to do. It's already a tough business in the ring, and then backstage, and then out of the ring, and in the family, and like there's so much that sucks. but doesn't suck. Like for me, I love all that, right? But that's not the average person. Like the average person isn't accustomed to that, and I got accustomed to that over the last 15 years. The beginning, I did not love it, right? I didn't used to love the road trips. I didn't used to love the hard drives or whatever it may be. Now it's like what I miss the most is just that time with my boys and riding to what we love, you know. But like that stuff can be brutal and it can take time to get accustomed to. So if you're going to go through all that, it's the same kind of thing I preach with my clients in fitness. Like if you're going to suffer and go through the discomfort, get the full results out of it, because the difference in the level of discomfort is very minimal. You know what I mean? Like pushing yourself an extra 10% could mean an extra 60% of results, right? But a lot of people hit that little bit of discomfort and they want to shy away, right? Push into the discomfort. If you're going to do it, do a balls to the wall. Challenge yourself. Don't half-ass it. Understand that it's more than just getting in the ring and learning how to run the ropes or fall down, right? Conditioning, being able to support yourself doing moves and protecting yourself and whoever you're wrestling and fighting and etc. Right? Like there's so many aspects to it. Make sure you give yourself a fighting chance, right? There's too much that hurts and that you have to sacrifice within wrestling to not give yourself a fighting chance. So that'd be my biggest suggestion. Right off the get-go, find the best school you can in your own opinion, do your research and see what your fit is. But if it comes down to like, I want to go to that school, but this one's cheaper, my suggestion would be to wait it out, save up, and start, you know what I mean? Start it right from the get-go. Don't develop any bad habits that you may along the way. And number two, give yourself a fighting chance. If you're going to do it for real.
Very good answer. Now, I was going to ask what you missed the most about wrestling, but you said the road trips. So I'm going to ask you this. What are you most looking forward to when you can get back in that ring and there's 200 to 300 fans sitting ringside for you?
Man, like I've made nearly 2 albums worth of songs over quarantine. I've done a bunch of writing, played a bunch of video games, trained a bunch of clients. Like I've done all this stuff, right? But like at the end of the day, there's still nothing that is the same as being inside of a wrestling ring, staring at someone you're about to wrestle. I mean, like, we're about to kill this. You know what I mean? Even if the person you're standing across the ring doesn't know. Like, if I'm in the ring with you, I can't leave without us killing it. So we're going to kill it. You know what I'm saying? I have off nights. We all do. But that is the intention. And that brings me so much joy. And then going through it and, you know what I mean, on the nights that you're lucky enough to really kill it and get the crowd where they're there, you know, like, there's nothing better in leaving. It's like that adrenaline lasts for so long. You know, it's there's so much to it. My last wrestling event, before I did one event a couple like maybe a month or 2 months ago for NSW, like a closed taping thing. But my last one before that was a couple of weeks before the quarantine, the beginning of March. And I was in Brooklyn, New York on Friday, and then back in Toronto for Smash on Sunday. Right. And like, it was me, Lionel, and Justin. Me, Lionel Knight, Just Insane, and we text each other so often going like, if we never wrestled again, say wrestling never came back on the face of the earth, it was like eliminated because of the pandemic, that was like the most beautiful, perfect trip ever. You know what I mean? And I mean, we got to debut with a brand new company. It's one of my favorite places to wrestle. I cannot wait to get back. Catalyst Wrestling, Ash and Matthew Ryan, incredible. Like, they couldn't have treated us better, and constantly are reaching out to us to make sure we know we're still involved, like going above and beyond things that the typical company, especially on the indies, don't do, right? Like, just amazing guys. So we got to debut for them, which was amazing. We all had dope matches against dope people. And then we had like 15 hours in a car together, like the 3 best friends, right? And like it couldn't have been more just joyful, no drama, just peace. You know what I mean? And that's it. I think like between the 2 things, that's it. I can't wait to be back doing shitty 15-hour drives that in the moment I feel like I hate, and then be like, that was the best ever. As the moment you get out of the car, you're like, damn, like, y'all want to go get breakfast or anything? Like, you don't want it to end, you know? I miss that, and I miss that feeling from being in the ring, because there's nothing that I found in my life in 31 years that's matched it. So,
all right, Carter Mason, 2021 class of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, sharpshooter category. Congrats, Carter. I can't wait to see you back in the ring, and thank you for taking the time to do the interview here with me tonight.
Thanks for having me, boss. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Take care.
So, guys, that was Carter Mason, sharpshooter category, Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. And I think he was, I was talking with him right just there. I think he was on that last show that I had seen independent wrestling based. Now, he had talked about the one in Toronto. I don't think, I think I was working maybe that day. But with regards to the show at Fanshawe College, him and Tyson Dukes just tearing it down. There's a picture online of myself, Sean Bates, and Carter, because we had interviewed him, I think, right prior to that event there at Fanshawe. But definitely well-deserved. Carter Mason, like I said, going into the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. Well-deserved. And thank you again, Carter Mason, for being part of the show here tonight. So, guys, moving on. Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. Like I said, next category is the Siren category. And again, dedicated to Canadian independent wrestling female who has the ability to excel in the business. So I'm going to take this graphic down, go back into here, and I'm going to bring up the video for who was involved with the voting for the Siren category here. So, guys, those are the nominees for the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021 Siren category there. And again, a mix of Canadian independent wrestling females, stemming all the way from the Maritimes to Alberta. I don't think anybody from British Columbia there, but I know definitely from Alberta and definitely from the Maritimes here. So, number one, Alexia Nicole. I've had the honor of interviewing her as well. Again at Fanshawe College, but it wasn't the same show as the Carter Mason one I was just talking about there. But Alexia Nicole is such a sweetheart. Very, very tiny girl, though. According to cagematch.net, 24 years old. She's a singles wrestler as well as a tag team wrestler. Short story about Alexia Nicole there was she used to be in a tag team back in the day with Aaliyah, who's now part of NXT. And when I had the honor of interviewing Alexia, she had a previous tryout with the WWE, and she said it had gone well. But if you go to CWNonline.ca, I believe the interview is up there I done with Alexia Nicole. But like I said, very tiny girl, 4'11". Woodbridge, Ontario, Canada is where she's listed being out of. 7 years of in-ring experience. Her nickname is the Bubblegum Princess. And if you look at pretty much any kind of promo shot, publicity shot, she's got a big bubble in front of her. And as far as she was trained by, the one and only Taylor Wilde, otherwise known as Chantel Taylor, who's got a long history as far as Canadian independent wrestling goes, as well as Impact Wrestling there. So Alexia Nicole first in there. Zoe Sager is the next one. I hope I pronounced that right. She is new to me there, and she is fairly young as far as I know. She's just right now starting to develop her gimmick, but listed from Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. Background in sports includes rugby as well as swimming, and 2 years of in-ring experience. Trainer was Lance Storm as well as Michael Richard Blyce. So that name comes up again there, but it's hard to argue with anybody being trained by Lance Storm. Not exactly sure how old she is, but I would guess maybe 2021. Very, big road, big career ahead of her there. But like I said, she is based in Alberta. Then we go into the one and only KC Two Scoops Spinelli. A true story here. She was asked out to go to my wedding by a friend of mine. So I got married back in 2017, and this guy named Jones and Sean were at a independence show, and apparently Jones had asked Spinelli if she wanted to come to my wedding. So, just a little bit of a short story there. But Spinelli is one of those ladies who has made her name known as being fun, but also being tough. I've seen her compete here in London, including the Canusa Classic that was presented by Smash Wrestling. She is tough. She's also been part of Impact Wrestling at times, and she's been around a while. As far as Spinelli's stats go, and I'm just going to bring them up here. She has looks like an article here on Wikipedia. So she's been around a while, like I said. But July 1st is her birthday, so Canada Day, and she sometimes will rock the Canadian gear there. Born in Toronto, Ontario, grew up in Guelph, Ontario. Wrestling career, she studied under a number of trainers, including Scotty Mack, Artemis Spencer, Kenny Lush, Bomber Nelson Creed, and Nicole Matthews. And it's interesting because she's from Toronto, and all of a sudden the names I just read are all BC based. So I'm gonna find out the backstory about there. But she made her first appearance in Impact Wrestling at November 2nd, 2017 show, and she's kind of been up and down, but Spinelli is one of those ladies who I think deserves a career up there. So from there, we go into the one and only Jody Threat. You want to talk about people having and deserving a career up there. When I say up there, I'm talking the pros. So Jody Threat, singles wrestler, 5'4". It's funny when you watch matches online or on TV, with regards to Jody Threat, I always thought she was a lot bigger than she actually is. But I got to see her at a show in Toronto. I want to say the summer or the spring of the very early summer of 2019. I think it was June of 2019 because I got to meet Ultimo Dragon, and but she was there. And when I went to the signing table, she's a very tiny girl, but she's very tough, and she looks bigger than her actual size. When you see her in the ring and you see her dominate, and you see her doing her gimmick there, she's absolutely amazing. She's got it listed here at 5'4". And only been in the business for 3 years. Trainers, Super Kick Wrestling, and her nickname is the Wild Child. But she brings the fierce, basically to the Canadian Independent Wrestling women's division. There, she's a long road ahead of her, and it'll be interesting to see if she gets in here. Last name on the list, Miss Madison Miles. So anybody who's unfamiliar with Madison, she is a maritime wrestler. She's 21 years old, so she is young. Birthplace, Halifax, Nova Scotia. 5'5", so she's smaller as well. In-ring experience is 5 years. She was trained by Gary Williams, and nicknames were the Teen Sensation as well as the 17-year-old Maritime Wrestling Sensation there. So that is the one and only Madison Miles. So guys, those 5 names there. And obviously, we got to get a winner. So the winner here for the Siren category, which is the ability, the opportunity to excel in the wrestling business, is the one and only Madison Miles. So she is in with a 40% vote. And like I said, she is the category is dedicated to a female Canadian independent wrestler with the potential to excel in the business. And she wins with a 40% vote. So the online vote. So Sean and myself had voted differently. But as far as voting goes, she won with 50% of the votes. Closest to her was Jody Threat at 16.7% of the votes there. So congratulations to Madison Miles for getting into the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. And guys, in saying that, she was not available to do a live interview just based on timing. She is over in the UK right now. So that was the whole timing aspect of it. But today, earlier on, she sent me a video thanking us, and I'm going to play that for you guys right now.
Hi everyone, Madison Miles here. 2020 has been one of the craziest, most hectic years of all of our lives. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who took the time out to vote me, Madison Miles, for the Siren Award this year. It's an extreme honor to be inducted into the 2021 class of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Thank you so much once again to each and every one of you. Stay safe.
So guys, like I said, Madison Miles, 2021 class of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, 50% of the vote she gets in with, and congratulations to her. Stay safe over there in England and the UK, and can't wait to get to see you wrestle when you get back here in Canada. I am a Maritime guy, and our goal was in 2020 to hit the Maritimes, myself, my wife, and my toddler, and it unfortunately didn't happen because of the pandemic. But if I ever get down to the Maritimes sometime in the next couple of years, and there's wrestling shows taking place while I'm down on vacation, yes, I will definitely be down there to watch. So, guys, yeah, Madison Miles Siren Award there. I kind of lost track here. Oh, now I remember. I was like, I kind of lost track here for a sec, but there was a comment that was made. And Aaron Sison says, congrats, Carter Mason. Well-deserved, brother. And he follows up with, is that the show when the fans stormed the ring? And yes, he is correct. That is the show where there was a fan that stormed the ring. Tyson, I believe, thought it was the ref or a worker or something like that. And then it was, I think, Brian White from Sarnia counselor at that, who got into the ring to kind of chase this fan out. But yeah, I remember that. I forgot all about that until now. But yeah, you are correct, Aaron. That was that show there. So that was interesting independent wrestling. Maybe we blame that guy for COVID breaking out because I haven't seen independent wrestling since. So, but anyways, that is that. From there, we go into the next category, guys. And I'm just trying to get set here. Where did my graphics go? Oh, no, wrong field. Here we go. All right, guys. So next category is the mixed martial arts, otherwise known as the MMA category. Near and dear to my heart. And again, I'll tell you a little short story. But you know, in the beginning of the show, you heard me talk about the fact is I was up till about 3 a.m. watching Hoist Gracie won, that first tournament as far as MMA UFC goes. Another thing, a little tidbit as well. You can see this on CWNonline.ca as far as my profile goes. When I was in high school, I was in karate, not for very long, but I was in karate. My sensei was a fellow by the name of Paul Jimmo. Jimmo, Jimmo. Well, his son, Ryan, the big deal Jimmo, was a UFC fighter. He unfortunately passed away after a tragic accident out there in Alberta. But again, his dad was my karate sensei back there in high school. So, it just makes me even more so fall in love with MMA, mixed martial arts. I love it. And like I said, I don't talk about it enough, but this is the year of change. So, but guys, this is the category for mixed martial arts. These were the nominees announced. So check this out and I'll be right back. So those are the nominees for the mixed martial arts category, MMA category for the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame 2021 class. And so as far as the MMA goes, a lot of those names you guys will be familiar with. Some of them you won't be familiar with. But in saying that, David the Crow Loiseau is in that field there. As far as the Crow goes, I'm just going to bring up some stats on these guys just as far as to let you guys know when they were around. But the Crow basically is officially retired now, but he was active from the years 2000 to 2014. He actually has, I believe, a training facility in Montreal, if I'm correct, and that is what he's doing now. So after his retirement from MMA, Loiseau has been running his own professional MMA gym, Crow Training Center, is native Montreal. Alongside his own business, Loiseau also teaches a Montreal Wrestling Club and Jiu-Jitsu club in Florida as well. As far as his mixed martial arts record went, he's got 34 matches, 23 wins, 11 losses by knockout, 15 of those. So he was a tough individual back in the day. But like I said, he ended up retiring back in the year 2000. I believe 14 is what I said. But very nice guy as well. I had the opportunity to interview him at one point. But just things didn't go through the way I wanted them to. So, but he was willing to do an interview with me, which was kind of cool as well. So, guys, from there we go from David the Crow Loiseau into the one and only GSP. Is there anything I can say about GSP that hasn't already been said? Here's a guy born 1981. So he's May 19th. So he's on his way to being, what is that based? 40 years old. But he doesn't look it. I tell you this, if you watch any of the stuff that he does online, it's different to see him with hair. I tell you that much. But you watch any of the stuff that he does online, and he's just in absolutely phenomenal shape. Like he was I think the other day, just shoveling snow to clear off his steps so he could do a workout. But short story about GSP, personally wise, is I have a cousin who's a flight attendant for Air Canada, and he was on a flight once with GSP, and GSP is apparently afraid to fly to the point he had to grip the seat, the handrest, so to speak, so hard that he left marks on them. But apparently GSP is afraid to fly there. But like I said, what can I say about GSP that hasn't already been said? Mixed martial arts record, 28 matches, 26 wins, 2 losses, 8 of those by knockout, and 12 of those by decision. But he is the one and only GSP. A lot of awards under his belt, and obviously he's not familiar, but affiliated with TriStar there in Quebec. So we go from GSP guys into Joe Dorkson, who I'm not too familiar with, but he's 1977 was born. He's a retired mixed martial artist, a professional from 1999 until 2014. So he was in there a while. UFC, WEC, King of the Cage. A lot of different promotions as well. 6 feet tall. His weight was 206. Fighting at Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And the years active were 1999 to 2014. As far as his MMA record goes, and it's pretty good. 67 matches, 51 wins, 16 losses. He had 8 by knockout and 35 by submission. So that's absolutely insane. But I can't remember ever seeing a UFC fight or a fight with him. But I'm going to make it a point to watch one by the end of this month, just to get more familiar with Joe Dorkson there. But he is in the running for the MMA category here. From there, we go to Mr. Patrick Cote, born February 29th, 1980. He is retired. Officially, as far as his career went, 2002 to 2017. Most notorious, obviously, with UFC. Was most of his matches there. 34 matches in total, 23 wins, 11 losses. By knockout, he had 10, and by decision, he had 9. But Patrick Cote, one of the nicest guys as well, from what I hear, outside of the octagon there. He actually retweeted one of my videos. I think it was yesterday when I did the MMA one, so it was pretty cool to see that. But Patrick Cote in the running there as well. And last but not least, guys, the one and only Sam Stout. So he is here in London, Ontario, Canada. Adrenaline MMA is what he is doing now. Sam Stout, 1984, mixed martial artist who is now retired. Years active, 2003 to 2013. As far as his career goes, 33 matches, 20 wins, 12 losses, 9 by knockout, 10 by decision. 2 quick stories about Sam Stout. Number one, he was, I think, building a house in North London here. And I'd always see him at the Home Depot at Adelaide and Fanshawe. And, it's just, he's always been a nice guy. There's also a picture online. I don't know if it's on any social media public accounts of mine. I know it's on my Facebook, though, but of me and Sam Stout. And I'm at this bar called McCabe's. And we're sitting there on St. Paddy's Day. And all of a sudden, I'm getting like another green picture, so to speak. God, I miss those days. And all of a sudden, I was like, holy crap, it's Sam Stout. So my future wife, at the time, gets out the camera, and sure enough, there's a picture of me when I was skinny and Sam Stout on St. Paddy's Day. So, he is a London boy here. So he's in the running as well. But guys, this is a vote. And when it comes all down to it, it's the fan vote, the online vote that matters the most. So getting into the 2021 class of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame is, yes, the one and only GSP, George Rush St. Pierre. So St. Pierre ends up getting in there with 83.3% of the vote. He dominated. Sam Stout was next at 10%, but George St. Pierre, GSP, ends up getting in with the vote. As far as the category itself goes, GSP goes in with 70%. So it was the online vote as well as myself, totaling that 70% for the one and only GSP, George Rush St. Pierre there. So where are we? I think we got one official votable category left, if I'm accurate here, and that would be the honor category coming up. And then we get to the final category that has been yet to be announced, which will be announced live on this show here. But like I said, the honor category, I'll explain it a little bit right now, actually. So the honor category is dedicated to Canadian wrestling journalist, manager, promoter, referee, trainer that excelled in the business. And I should also say MMA as well, but dedicated to Canadian journalist, manager, promoter, referee, trainer that excelled in business. So it's the honor category because it's basically somebody behind the scenes who has helped launch the careers, so to speak, or helped with the careers, so to speak, of those legends that we love. So again, journalist, manager, promoter, referee, trainer that excelled in the business. So guys, I'm going to do this, and here is the video for that there. So enjoy, and I'll be back momentarily. So guys, 5 legendary names there being announced for the honor category of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. It's quite a span too as far as generations go, but we'll start with the one and only Frank Tunney. And guys, if you're a wrestling fan like myself, who grew up kind of in the 80s and stuff like that, you know the name Tunney, but you don't necessarily know the name Frank Tunney. So Frank Tunney, born November 12, 1912, ended up passing away in 1983, was a Canadian professional boxing and wrestling promoter based in Toronto. Educated in Markham, Ontario. He was very well based as far as Maple Leaf Gardens went. Of all the wrestlers who ever worked for Tunney, the one who helped put Tunney's promotion on the map was Whipper Billy Watson. So that name is synonymous with Tunney there. His final years during a trip to Hong Kong, Tunney died in his sleep on May 10th, 1983 at the age of 70. He's buried at Mount Hope Catholic Cemetery in Ontario, survived by his wife, 3 children. And the funeral was attended by wrestlers Sam Mushnick, Gene Kiniski, Jim Barnett, Jim Crockett, Vincent J. McMahon, and so on. But Frank Tunney was legendary back in the day as far as his status went, and helped put Canadian wrestling on the map there. From there, we go into the one and only Sweet Daddy Siki. So as far as Sweet Daddy Siki goes, I'm just going to bring this up here. And this I didn't realize as well, because when I think of Sweet Daddy Siki, I think Toronto. But he was actually born in Montgomery, Texas, down in the States. Currently resides in Toronto, Ontario. Ring names: Mr. Irresistible, Reggie Siki, Sweet Daddy Siki. But when you think about Sweet Daddy Siki there, he's very synonymous, like I said, with regards to Toronto, and the wrestling that takes place in Toronto there. Maple Leaf Wrestling, he wrestled for. He was NWA International Tag Team Champion one time with Bulldog Bob Brower. But Sweet Daddy Siki is one of those guys that helped launch the careers. Something what people would probably recognize him for, or see him for, was the fact is he made an appearance at WWE SmackDown September 13th, 2011 for Edge Appreciation Night, along with several other legends as well as superstars there. But Sweet Daddy Siki was a main attraction, Maple Leaf Gardens, so back in the day. So he is in the running for the Hall of Fame as well there. From there, guys, we go into the one and only. Let's do this. Let's do Ed Whalen next. Ed Whalen, a broadcaster out there in Calgary. When it comes to Ed Whalen, he basically was synonymous with Stampede Wrestling when I was growing up as a kid. So for me personally, with regards to Ed Whalen, he was the Michael Cole. He was the Jim Ross back in the day. When I was in the Maritimes, every Monday night, 6 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, so to speak, Stampede Wrestling would come on TSN down there. WWE wasn't necessarily big. NWA necessarily wasn't big. It was, when I grew up, it was following WWF where I could, but it was the Stampede Wrestling as well as the AWA. That was the stuff I saw the most. So Ed Whalen would be that main commentator, would be that main hype guy, would be that main site guy to launch the careers of the Brian Pillmans and Jason the Terribles and guys like Bret Hart. And when Davey Boy Smith and the Dynamite Kid end up having a falling out with WB, they end up back in Stampede Wrestling, and Ed Whalen was there. The Karachi Vice obviously was a big part of Stampede Wrestling, but Ed Whalen was part of that as well. He was that announcer, he was that broadcaster that made these guys larger than life. Even though it was Stampede Wrestling, it wasn't the WWE, but to me, it was wrestling as a whole. There, you want to talk about wrestling as a whole? The next guy we get into here, the one and only Ron Hutchison, retired Canadian professional wrestler, trainer, and promoter who competed for Canadian independent wrestling, such as Grand Prix Wrestling, Maple Leaf Wrestling. He's the owner of Ron Hutchison Wrestling Academy at Sully's Gym, for anybody who's ever heard the term Sully's Gym, and co-owner of Sweet Daddy Siki and Rod Hutchison School of Wrestling. He's also credited, and here we go, guys, as one of the leading trainers of professional wrestlers in Canada, whose students included Edge, Christian, Trish Stratus, Gail Kim, Beth Phoenix, Tracy Brooks, Tiger Ali Singh, Johnny Swinger, Mad Dog Rex, the Club Stud Tony Mack, Kid Lightning, David Diamond, Joe E. Legend, The Original Sin, and Asylum. He debuted in 1983 from the looks of it and retired in 1990. So obviously not that big of a career as far as, his wrestling career in the ring went, but the amount of guys, the amount of performers that he trained was absolutely phenomenal there. And Ron Hutchison, I mean, to anybody that's knows Canadian wrestling, has ever heard Gail Kim talk or Edge and Christian talk or Trish Stratus talk, they know that name of Ron Hutchison there. So a very nice guy from the looks of it too. I've never had the opportunity to get to meet him, but he, from everything I've seen online, just to the stories I've heard about him, just a very well rounded, nice guy there. From there, we talk about nice guys, the one and only Jim Corderas. So Jimmy Corderas, born in 1962, Canadian professional wrestling referee, commentator, and television personality who currently works for Canadian TV Sports Sportsnet. He's best known for his 22-year tenure in the WWE from 1987 to 2009. The coolest thing about Jimmy Corderas is, beyond the fact that he was doing the Aftermath and everything else before the pandemic broke down, and he's still doing it just in a different form, was when you go back and you look at some of the moments in WWF wrestling history, like I think Survivor Series 1987, I think he was part of. I was like, holy crap, there's Jimmy Corderas, you know what I mean? All the way through to the matches with Edge and The Undertaker. And just, when you're watching the old school footage on the WB network and you see how many things he was actually a part of, it's like, holy crap. And, he's not afraid to speak his mind, and he's not afraid also to be part of, helping to build somebody, to help to build their career in the wrestling business, to give them that great advice. He was also that guy in the ring as far as Owen Hart and the tragedy that took place. And when you hear the stories, from Jimmy Corderas himself, some of the interviews that he had done with regards to that night, it's absolutely insane. But he just looks like a nice, humble guy, just enjoys his coffee, obviously. But 22 years in the business as a referee was absolutely amazing there. So guys, with that being said, the honor award, the category goes to the one and only Jimmy Corderas. So he got the vote into the 2021 class of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. He got put in with a 70% vote. So it was the online vote as well as Sean's vote that put him in there. Like I said, the category dedicated to Canadian journalist, manager, promoter, referee, trainer that excelled in the business. As far as the online vote goes, he won with 38.2%. Not far behind him, though, was Ron Hutchison at 23.5%. So Jimmy Corderas officially in the 2021 class of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. So that being said, it's almost the end of the show. So I guess we might have maybe one more award left, one more category left. And I'm going to see how I played this out as far as my notes go. I guess I'll do the intro first here. So with that being said, the intro goes like this. So we had 8 categories planned out for the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And, everything seemed great with regards to, the male, the female, the tag team, the legend, MMA, I want it in there for sure, the honor category, the sharpshooter, the siren. And then it felt like something was almost kind of being left out. And I talked to my wife about it, and she goes, well, maybe have a category towards somebody who, is good outside of the business as well. So he's great in the ring, but he's also great outside of the ring. So in saying that, I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? She's absolutely right. I'm like thinking, why not have a special category that isn't voted upon? That all of a sudden it's decided between myself and Sean, as well as Christine, my wife, who are all contributors to the Hall of Fame as well as CWN. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? It's somebody in mind that Sean, has interviewed. I have interviewed, that I have known has existed as a wrestler for probably, I would say, the better part of 15 years. My first interaction with them was in Tilsonburg, of all places, and it's just a completely different gimmick back then. But to know he's still doing his thing and doing it well, and not just the Ontario independent wrestling scene or the Canadian independent wrestling scene, but the pro wrestling scene as well. So category 9, which has been referred to on the website there, guys, is dedicated to a Canadian who we believe exemplifies what being a professional athlete inside and outside the ring is all about. So with that being said, I'm not going to announce the category. I'm going to get rid of the graphic off the screen here. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to let him announce it himself, and then we'll touch base once it's done. So guys, enjoy this.
Hey guys, Cody Diener here. I just want to send a message to everyone at the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame and everybody watching this live stream right now. I am extremely honored that the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame has decided to have an award called the Just Giver Award. I have spent many years and many hours doing some fine work with some amazing Canadian charities through the Giver for Charity campaign, and it makes me proud as a Canadian professional wrestler to be able to raise money for such amazing charities all across this country. And it makes me proud not just because there's so many awesome charities in Canada that we've been able to raise money for, but it makes me proud that it's professional wrestling fans that have supported my charity efforts with Giver for Charity. And since the inception, I've been able to raise over $17,000 for different charities all across the country. And that's not because of the kindness of my heart. It's because of the kindness of all of you amazing professional wrestling fans. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Pro wrestling has the best fans in the world, and specifically Canadian professional wrestling fans. So from Cody Diener to you, thank you so much for all the support over the years. And again, I'm honored that there's a Just Give Award, and we're going to be recognizing some other amazing Canadian wrestlers and their efforts in their communities as well. So thank you so much, guys. And remember, just give her.
So an honor and a privilege to have Cody Diener officially part of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. But not just that, the Just Giver Award is the name of Category 9, so it is the name of the award. In saying that, we wanted Cody Diener to be part of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. So myself, Christine, Sean, all agreed upon it. We reached out to Cody Diener. Originally, we set up an interview, but due to scheduling, obviously, he sent the clip in instead, which still honored to have. With regards to Cody, the way the award's going to work, as long as he wants to be part of it, is he is going to pick the winner every single year. So the class of 2022, Diener is going to be the one to basically choose who gets in for that award. So it will never be voted on by fans or myself or Sean or Christine, anybody a part of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. It's always going to be, voted on by Cody Diener himself there. So again, honored as well as privileged to have Cody Diener be part of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, especially the class of 2021. But with regards to Diener himself there, and the personal stories here, I've never met somebody who is not more passionate, as more dedicated as far as the gimmick goes, the business goes, but all around nice guy, just very humble. And when I talk about seeing him at that show in Tilsonburg, and I think it was maybe 2005, 2006. And to see how far he's come as far as his gimmick goes. And back then, his character, he was known as completely Cody Steele. And all of a sudden he went into the transformation as far as the mullet goes, into the beer drinking trailer park guy. And now all of a sudden you see the guy who he is, as far as the Diener character goes, as far as Eric Young goes, and Joe Doring and what he is as far as present goes. But he is somebody who knows how to transform himself, year after year after year. But the fact is, he has never had an ego. He has always entertained the fans, and he's always looked like he's enjoyed entertaining the fans. And not just his character in the ring, but the fact is his character outside the ring. When you go to his website, so codydiener.com/charity, he talks about the Giver for Charity. He's raised $17,351 raised for charities. He talks about his campaigns that he's done. We have donated as far as some of our shows go to Cody's charities, but $17,000 just because he felt, that's what he wanted to do. So, absolutely insane that, he's been part of the wrestling business, to my knowledge, for the past 15, 16 years, and to reinvent himself as much as he has. But like I said, this award is dedicated to somebody who not only excels in the ring, but outside of the ring as well. So the Just Giver Award, obviously Cody Diener this year. And for 2022, we will let Cody pick the next recipient there. So honored, proud, and it's truly thank you very much, Cody, for being part of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021 there. So guys, I believe that might be it. It is too. So not as long as I thought, not the full 2 hours, but it almost went the full 2 hours. It's over an hour and a half right now. So, but if you've listened to the show, I do apologize for the music that was continuously played, probably about 8 times at least. But that is in relation to the videos that were played. So guys, if you listen to audio, feel free to check it out on Twitch or Facebook, YouTube. The official website is of cpwhof.ca, cwnonline.ca, and you can you'll get a sense of why the music was playing continuously at times, you know what I mean? But that promo music 8 times over for sure. But give it a chance to check it out on video. It's like I said, it'll be up on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitch. And one more comment here from Chem Valley Wrestling. Congrats to the CVW Chem Valley Wrestling champion, Mr. Cody Diener there. So thank you very much, Aaron Sisson. Sison, I will eventually meet you and figure out how to pronounce your name properly. But thanks for being part of the show, and thanks for all the comments that you've had here. So guys, that is it for the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. If you've hung on, if you've listened this long, thank you very much. I definitely appreciate it. Look forward to November of this year when we launch the voting for the 2022 class. Not quite sure what some of these other comments are coming in, but we'll leave it at that. But guys, like I was saying, thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you very much for listening to the show. Thanks for the comments tonight. And, thanks for supporting CWN 12th anniversary today, as well as the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. So guys, that is it. Stay safe, take care of one another, enjoy wrestling where you can, support wrestling where you can. I know we can't go to shows right now, but buy some merch, subscribe to streams, anything you can to help these guys out. And it was an honor to have Carter Mason on the show tonight, honor to have Madison Miles send in that promo, and honor, like I said, for Mr. Cody Diener to be part of it as well. Sorry, multitasking here. Aaron Sasson, last comment here. Thanks for the great show. That was incredible. Thank you very much. And guys, check him out on YouTube. Like I said, the links you can find on the CWN Online account as far as YouTube goes, as well as CWNonline.ca. If it's wrestling related, you'll see the clips played there as far as the Canadian Independent Wrestling section goes. But on behalf of Carter Mason and Madison Miles and Cody Diener for being part of the show tonight, as well as oh, wait, I got one more comment. I will read that momentarily. On behalf of myself, Sean, as well as Christine, thank you very much for helping to make this happen. It's an honor to be part of this. Like I said, 12 years of CWN. I wanted to do something more with it. And when I talked to those guys, they were on board with it. So again, 2021 class is in the books, and thank you very much to anybody who's supported us with this here. And last comment for sure, what's new with CWN? All right, Mr. Steven, I will plug you here. As far as CWN Online goes, so CWNonline.ca, I've been looking to branch out even further. I've been looking for contributors, anybody who wants to do something as far as writing goes or interviews and stuff like that. So saying that, Steven, I've been familiar with for well over a year now. We met at Ontario Independent Wrestling Show, and we've bantered back and forth as far as podcasts and this and that go. So, I was like, you know what? He's got a great wrestling mind, and he's very true to his word. If he likes somebody, he likes somebody. If he doesn't like somebody, he'll tell you he doesn't like somebody, and he'll argue it until he's blue in the face. You know what I mean? So I talked to Steven. I said, hey, do you want to do something as far as CWN goes? So he had an idea. So we went with that idea, came up with a name for his not necessarily the show, but for his category, so to speak, on CWNonline.ca. So in saying that, that will launch tomorrow. So CWNonline.ca, the title of his segment, so to speak, is going to be Slugging with Steven. And it's going to be an interview series. So he's got a couple interviews lined up. It's all going to be text-based interviews. So it's going to go old school, the same way I was doing way back about 15 years ago. But it's in the day and age of podcasts and everything else, it's kind of good to go old school every now and then. And Steven's going old school. And in saying that, I'll plug this one more time. Slugging with Steven, the name came about because Steven is a huge Jim Cornette fan. And with saying that, Louisville Slugger, and that's where that name came from. So when I talked to it with regards to a name for Steven, he was all on board for it. And it's like I said, it'll be launching tomorrow on the website CWNonline.ca. Guys, if you want to write, if you want a podcast interview, whatever the case may be, hit me up, Chris at CWNonline.ca, or just the symbol down below there at Chris Maloney CWN. It's Twitter, or as well as Instagram or Reddit. And I'm not hard to get a hold of. And, I'm looking to basically make CWN as big as I possibly can. This year I got a lot of goals as far as the website goes. And with the addition of, like I said, the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN, the class of 2021, I'm looking to expand, and that's all I can say about that. But I'm going to leave my voice at rest. I'm going to say thank you very much to everybody who's watched and listened. And I'm going to say thank you very much for all the comments tonight. I'm going to say thank you very much for everybody for being part of the show, for being part of the hype, everything that's gone into the 2021 class. And in saying that, I can't wait till November hits and we get to do this again as far as the voting goes. And then January 18th, 2022, look for the Hall of Fame edition once again there. So guys, thank you very much for watching, listening. Have a good night. Have a great week. And, be safe. And thanks very much, everybody. All right. See you later.